let's get into now I always ask everybody, what's your orange pill journey? How did you, everyone has very few people are just like, oh, I read about Bitcoin and there was a ding, I got it. Like most people are like, I didn't get it at first at all. So tell us your orange pill.
Yeah, so it kind of goes with what I do for a living.
You work in finance. Yeah, tell me what you do. You work in finance.
Yeah, so I won't bore you too much with the whole biography, but autobiography, I guess, because I'm talking. I went to college, I majored computer science, then I got out and started doing stand-up with you. And all of the guys we started with. But I had this, I could write code, I could do computer stuff. So unlike a lot of comics, which I was a little bit lucky in some fashion, is that I could be, as I started to get booked and go on the road, I could take my computer and be like, well, I'm going to write code from 9 in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. And I'm going to make software developer money and then, work on my act and then I'll go do shows. So I was a little bit different than a lot of comics in the fact that I had, I sort of had that thing. And then eventually what happened is about 11 years of doing stand-up, like I'd work my way up. I was headlining and I was working 45 weeks a year and I'm, I think 48 weeks on the year on the road. And then I had the chance to start my own software company. And I was like, well, I kind of can't go on the road now. I got to make my decision. So, and I made the right decision. I decided to get into that. And then, we did very, very well there. And then I kind of knew I could do that. And then I started a second company and that one got really big. And then the third one, and then we sold that. And then I'm like, all right, well, now I don't want to do that anymore. I want to get into venture capital because instead of being the entrepreneur, I wanted to be the investor and then invest in, at this point now 70 companies that I've led the investment on. And I wanted to work with 70 different entrepreneurs and help them with, what I know and raising money and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of got into finance. Well, when you're around 70 entrepreneurs, you're going to see things before the normal society sees them, right? So eventually, probably around 2012, a friend of mine who's always on the cutting edge of everything starts talking to me about this Bitcoin thing. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know, but he's a guy that when he talks, you're just like, oh yeah, okay. If Josh is talking about this, you're going to listen to what Josh has to say. So it's a little bit he started an ISP out of his dorm room in 1990. I'm not shitting. At 21 years old, he had an ISP, and I think he sold it for $600 million as a 23-year-old. He's like, hey, this internet's a thing. I should set up the ability for people to have the internet at their house.
When I was 23, I was getting free drinks at the Comedy Cafe in Milwaukee.
Yeah. I was, I don't know what I was, 21 years old. I was, yeah. So he did that. And then he's like, hey, the internet's still going to be a thing. So I'm going to go buy a shitload of domains. So he bought 13,000 domains, and then he sold those, depending on what the domain was. He eventually owned Chicago.com. And then blessedly, he gave a bunch of us, I'm from Chicago, I don't know if you mentioned. Yeah, I think you did.
Yes,
yeah.
We're from Chicago.
So my email is, people can email me if they want. Tell me I'm not entertaining at all. Bob@chicago.com. I got that email address, which is phenomenal to have. But Josh was working on that. And then he's like, hey, I'm working on this Bitcoin thing. And I'm like, well, shit, Josh sold his ISP for $600 million and he's domain, whatever this is probably gonna be a thing. So he starts explaining it to me and I'm like, he's giving me these words I don't understand. And I'm like, is there a dungeon master? I don't understand, because that's what it sounds like, right?
No, I love everyone's first reaction to Bitcoin. When I first heard
it was a fucking wizard on a coin or whatever the fuck it is.
This, and I was just like, I'm sure the Loch Ness Monster's got his own coin too. Your kids have fun with your little rainbow cookie or whatever.
And even now, it's still just all these discords and all. It's just, it's a lot of deep nerds, and the coin's got a picture, and Merlin is a thing, and it's like a fucking. Is there a dungeon master? Is there?
Yeah.
What's going on? I got a ghoul. All right, I don't know. How many hit points do I have? I don't have any idea what's going on.
I got to collect stars or trophies or what do I got? Coins?
Do I have to get a potion? So I'm talking to him, and then and he was doing it so early. And he still does it. And then he got into mining. And then with what I do, he's like, hey, Bob, can you help me model out some stuff? I do a lot of financial modeling stuff. He's like, hey, man.
Somebody in the chat put the coin master.
the coin master. So then he started calling me about my expertise and being like, hey, Bob, I need to put together a financial model or put together these things that I do, term sheets and boring shit, cap tables. And so I'm like, well, I can do that, but I need to understand what you're doing. So I started, kind of as I helped him model out things, I started to pick up what Bitcoin crypto is all about. And then my first story, though, of a Bitcoin is fantastic. We're at my house. I remember it distinctly now. We're at my house. And we're having like a little dinner party. And he's like, hey, man, just bring your phone up. Because like I've been doing the modeling for him. I've been doing all the financial modeling for him. But I haven't mined. I haven't bought it. I don't know anything. I'm just, yeah, Josh, tell me how it works. Put in the numbers. I'll figure out how, So he goes, bring up your thing. Download this wallet thing. I'm like, whatever. And I download it. And he's like, yeah, and ding, ding. And then all of a sudden I have a Bitcoin, right? I look at it and it's, I don't know, $620, I think maybe at the time, something like that.
This is 13?
2011, 2012, 2013. I don't remember the exact, it was about that time. Right. And I look at it and I'm like, Josh, he's only $600. And he's like, Josh doesn't need $600 from me. So Josh is like, yeah, man, don't worry about it. That's cool. He's like, no, you get the drinks and, whatever. Just, I'll tell you what, you throw in an extra couple hours of consulting. I'm like, yeah, great, Josh. Well, it's found money. I don't know anything about this. He's like, yeah, you back it up to a thing and you get and I'm like, yeah, I'll do this. I'll do it, whatever. And then you don't, right? And then my phone dies and I'm like, whatever. And then, later on, I'm like, that's a $67,000 now. That's good. So that was my first, very, very first thing. Now, I would say this, I because it was found money, when it got to, I don't know what number it would have gotten to, but I would have sold it at that point, right?
I'm sure when it hit its first big bull.
Like 16,000, I remember being like, where is that phone at,
Yeah. In 2017, when it had that big bull run up to 20,000, would have sold it. So,
but I have, people around me that, I probably got 4 friends, including you 5. I'd call you loosely a friend, quite honestly. By the way, for the people watching this, we spent almost 24 hours together. I need a break. I
was like, I got to surf this morning. I can't handle any more of this stuff.
So I got, 4 friends who were deep into it. Like dudes back then they would take a power strip into work and they would plug their graphic cards into the power strip and then plug the power strip into the wall and they would mine at their desk during the day. Like using free energy from their company. And the company is, what is that? It's a charger. I don't know. Nobody cared. And they would mine at their desk with graphic cards plugged into it. And they had pictures of it. They show it to me. So I have at least 2 friends who then, bought a pizza for 12 Bitcoins. Like I had two friends who were like, I had a pizza. I bought 12, it's $12. Like I've had those friends that did that. I'm like, yeah, that's about $1 million pizza.
It's $1 million pizza.
Yeah. So that's how I got into it. And then, when you're just around finance a lot, I've started to see solutions, not just the coins, not just, not just the tokenization of the value, but, how do we write things to the blockchain that then have value? So, if you think about it, getting paid in Bitcoin for the utility of storing information on the blockchain is why you get given Bitcoin. The miners say, hey, everybody, I got a node, and if you give me some information, I'll put it on the blockchain. And when you need it back, I'll give it back to you. And by doing that, I get a little bit of Bitcoin. That's my reward for doing it. Mm-hmm. So for me, at least initially, it was very much like, okay, this blockchain technology is like an immutable database that can't be hacked, and it's a public registry of information. Well, that's super interesting to me because, like, you bought a house, you've got a car, title insurance. Hey, Bob, we got to pay $3,000 because we got to go to the court room or the court building and find out if somebody else has claim to your property. Didn't you just do this when the guy before me bought it? Like, you're going to go to the court? Like, okay, we did it when I bought it, and now I'm selling it. Nothing happened. So the blockchain is like, why isn't all that just on the blockchain?
Right.
It's just put it on there and say, that's Bob's house, that's Bob's car, whatever. You make your last car payment and they mail you your deed for your car.
Right.
What? Yeah, put it on the blockchain and says Bob owns the car now. And then when I take it to somebody, I go, yeah, pull it up on the blockchain. They go, oh yeah, Bob owns this car. You're sending me a piece of paper that,
It's very, very analog. It's very phone booky.
Yeah. And then if you think about in finance, I'm solely focused right now on real estate technology. That's what our fund does. So think about that, like with properties and all the paperwork and all the stuff that goes into a financial transaction is why can't that be put on an irrefutable, unhackable public database, which is what blockchain is. So that's kind of how I got into it, was because I see so many, and also I know this is a Bitcoin podcast, but like cybersecurity. I was way ahead of knowing about that kind of stuff.
Right.
I was way ahead of video games, understanding that these video games are going to be rich, detailed things that you can download to a computer instead of having to go to the store and thousands of people are going to play at once. I saw that coming way before anybody else. Well, not anybody else, but people like that. Streaming, like Netflix. I'm like, oh, that's going to be a thing. Like right now we're mailing around DVDs. But later on, you're going to click a button and that movie's just going to show up at your house. Yeah. So when you're around a lot of technology, you learn a lot about different technologies and, AI, cybersecurity, video games, Bitcoin. They're all these emerging things that we're not even starting to scratch the surface of that I just got involved with because I have to know about them. Mm-hmm. And then there's the ones that I think, aren't as interesting. But I think that, clearly I think that, that this is a big giant thing that is in the very early innings.
Yeah, it feels like one of those things like we don't even know yet. Like it's when the Wright brothers did their first plane, were they thinking about the space shuttle when they did that? Or the first car, were they thinking about this like Tesla or whatever, a Formula One race car? Were they even conceiving of that? No.
Yep.
And I think that's where we're at.